Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday conversation that we're having today. We changed the name, and I got Amor with me right here, as you see. And today is going to be a very special topic that is just basically organically grew together. So just give us a few minutes, and we'll be back, and we will discuss the topic of the purpose of evil and a lot of other extra criteria material that you enjoy. So we'll be right back. Amor, before we get started, go ahead and tell everybody out there hello, and you don't need an introduction. You're well known now, so just
hello, everybody. Hello and welcome.
Yes. Okay. So we're getting started here, and I want to read this comment that Amar had written on a friend of ours post on YouTube. And when I read it, it really touched me today, and it's where I'm at also. And we have not staged this. This is strictly, I don't know what you'd call it, but here we go. And according to conversation, this is why I am moving more towards Zen, Tao, in the clear mindfulness meditation these days, because I want you to listen to this, because the Abrahamic tribunal religions are obviously a psyops, no difference than the many different psyopses we see like other groups. The King James Bible has put out there to divide us, to control the masses. Buddha got it right when he rejected the pantheon of gods and the controlling priesthood. The middle way, Buddhism, and the middle way of Kabbalah is the direct path to enlightenment. And we started out, I was sharing with him before, and he said, no, let's wait till we get into the show till we get into this. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it today. But back in the 80s, I was a strong I was a Pentecostal flamethrower, buddy. I was at every revival that you could go to, every night at church. I just loved church. And in the process, one time I just thought, I said, what would happen if something like, back then, of course, it was the Antichrist. If the Antichrist came on the scene and he says basically, no religion, we can't have any Christianity, Judaism, Buddhist, or nothing like that. And I thought back then, I don't need any of this stuff. I mean, I really did. I don't need the Bible, because I've always thought there was always problems with the scripture, translations and stuff like that. So I prepared myself years ago that I don't need the script. But it does come down, Amar, to the fact that we are going to have to find some enlightenment outside of the normal boxes that we see out there. And because I really believe with this great reset that we're seeing happening right before our eyes. I know people saying, "Oh, y'all are crazy," and your conspiracy theories. I've heard it all. The people, it's happening right before your eyes, and you don't even see it. But from a spiritual standpoint, Amar, where do we need to be to face these issues that we're having thrown at us right now?
Yeah. Well, actually, Buddha answered that question. That pretty much. That there is suffering, and there's a cause for suffering.
Right.
You remember that? It's the four noble truths, and two of those is the suffering and the cause of suffering, and the cessation of suffering, and I forget the other noble truth right now. But nonetheless, the problem is that of our mistaken identity.
Right.
And so the solution would be nothing more than self-realization. Of course, the Buddha called that nirvana or enlightenment, but self-realization works for me. And that's exactly what that's the cure for the problem of it's a sickness. Diagnose this like you're a doctor, like you're diagnosing an illness.
Right.
The belief in separation is an illness. It's a mental illness. It is.
It really is.
And with this great reset upon us, what we're going to face, brother, in the next few years, maybe even the few months,
right,
is going to be an invitation to awaken, but it's also going to be very strange and bizarre and maybe even frightening for the ego. Because you see, the illness, the mental illness, is that belief that I'm separate from everybody, that I'm an individual person with my own free will, and that I'm apart from you. And you know what I'm saying? It's separation. That's the problem.
Right. Well, and you're right. And this is where, I'm sorry, this is where you have your major religions saying they have the magic key or they have the magic connection, because you are separated according to the religions.
Yeah.
And you need our truth, our path, our blood to connect you to the Creator. And anything outside of our dogma or outside of our truth, brother, you cannot connect to the Creator at that time. It's done.
That is true. That is true. And the essence of all these religions are true, by the way. I don't knock the religion, because I love the Christian expression. It's like a beautiful, like every flower is not a rose,
Right.
There's different expressions. There's many different colors and flowers, but the essence is the same. It's beautiful. It's the aroma of the God force of the life, the one life. And so all these religions have that secret, esoteric, spiritual truth. But at the same time, there's another side of that coin, which is total. Their advocate religion itself promotes separation,
right,
and egoity and the false.
Right.
It feeds the false self with the religious dogma,
right.
And I can even read you something right now that actually goes with exactly what we're talking about, if you don't mind.
Please do. Please
okay,
do.
I had to put my reading glasses on, different glasses for everything I do.
Yes.
And then this is Robert Adams. Anyone familiar with the non-dual teachings of the great sage Robert Adams? From the non-dual teachings of Robert Adams, he states this. And remember, we're talking about the problem and the solution, and religion being the problem of basically separating all mankind. And this is what I say, brother, I'm going more towards the Buddha these days.
Right.
And by that, I'm not becoming Japanese and learning Zen, but I'm practicing Zen, but I'm not trying to become,
right.
I don't want another religion, Right. So listen to Robert here for a minute. He says, what I am saying to you is this: let everything, do not hold on, stand naked before God without any crutches, without anything to hold on to. When you can do this, from this moment on, you will begin to rise, and you will become aware that you are not the body or the mind or the world or the universe, but you are effortless, choiceless, pure awareness. You are boundless space, infinite like the sky. You have become everything, and everything has become you. Now listen to this. There comes a time in everyone's life when they have to stand naked before God. By standing naked, I mean no scriptures, no fancy words, no preconceived ideas, no spiritual, intellectual knowledge, but to be totally naked in all humility and humbleness. And finally, he says this. Now listen. Therefore, and this is Buddha's enlightenment. This is the same Buddha enlightenment. This is what Buddha realized upon his enlightenment. And Robert Adams says this: therefore, when you can forget about your scriptures, forget about everything you have learned, and become totally empty, then you will become full of God.
Well, that's exactly where we're at right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
forget your scriptures, forget everything. Let your intellectual knowledge go. It's not going to take you anywhere.
Right. And as you said last week, your ego can't be saved in the first place. So what are you trying to do?
That is so true. That is true. And I hear it even in Freemasonry or Gnostic schools. I have this divine spark. I have a divine spark, but no, you don't have a divine spark. You are the divine spark.
Right. Exactly.
That's the shift right there. Once you realize you don't have a divine spark, you are that divine spark. Right. God is not inside you. God is you.
Right. Well, to make that, what you just got through reading, two things came to mind. The book of Genesis, it says that Adam and Eve were walking through and they had clothed themselves, and the Creator said basically, well, no, they hid from God basically, and he asked why, and then he clothed them, which is a beautiful illustration. We see religion and covering happen early, even in the Abrahamic text here. We see the purpose of religion being added on. And the second thing is you're absolutely right. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? As people in the churches or wherever, which I'm not knocking them, trust me, 50, 60 years in the same place they were, telling the same stories they were telling 50 years later, same testimonies, nothing new is happening. To me, that is a bondage situation. It's not freedom to me. Now, that's just my understanding.
Well, religion and spirituality are two different things.
Correct.
In my mind, that's the way I see it,
Right.
Religion is going to be based on what a belief system, like you said, boxes.
Right.
It's going to be something. It's going to be things that tie you down, which is what religion means. It means to bind.
Would you say religion's for the ego then?
Sure. Sure. Oh, the ego loves religion.
Loves religion and knowledge. Knowledge.
Yeah. So Buddha had this problem. I mean, if you believe the history books, which we can't really trust any of them, but the story goes that Buddha actually was a Hindu.
Right.
And the Hindu has a pantheon of gods. And these pantheons of gods and the different rituals, they had a priesthood and all this stuff. And he said, no. He says, the path is simple. It's direct.
Right.
It's here. It's now. Right. It's in this present moment. When you die to the present moment, you have fully entered into the gates of heaven or the gates of God, nirvana.
Right.
And so you don't need a priest for that. You don't need a religion for that. And you certainly don't need these tribal gods, because these tribal gods are projections of they're not even real. They're just, we make it up.
Right.
That's the way I see it. All the tribal deities of mythology and even the Abrahamic religion, right. The God that gets angry one day and he's okay, he's going to reward you if you're good and punish you if you're evil. Well, that God doesn't exist. That's just a personification of karmic law. Because that's what karmic law does, that, by the way. It punishes you when you're evil and it rewards you when you're good. That's karma.
Right.
That's not a God.
Right.
So the Jewish people actually, and the Jewish mystics know this. They know that God is transcendental.
Right.
Not some tribal deity.
Right. Yeah, I actually, there's several books that I have read on non-duality from a lot of mystics, and you're right. They see it the same way. They see every action that we do as a result of our action. In other words, every failure we have, or that fits into your video that you did last week, the darkness that we put in our life is a result of choices maybe that we have done, and we have to work through those to find that enlightenment in that life. So these trials are actually good for us because they actually push. And, in the same way, this great reset that we're going through, in one aspect, it's really scary and gloomy. But in another aspect, it may actually be what it takes to wake people up out of this illusion that we're living, and let them realize that the only thing that really mattered is what's inside of here is here. It's not out there. So I think that in one aspect, this thing coming is very fearful and scary to a lot of people, but at another time, it may be the perfect hell situation to bring people out of that illusion they're living in right now.
Yes, that's well said, brother. It may be the one thing that breaks us out of our shell of and our egoic differences and separation and all that. It may be the thing to do it, because as I said in one of my previous videos, the purpose of evil, evil is an illusion. It's not real in the realm of timeless eternity. In eternity, there is no evil.
Right.
But when you come down that Kabbalistic tree into the manifest world, now you're getting into some duality there.
Yes.
And then, but then is it really evil? Because that's a judgment too. Because really, if it does its job of awakening us, then it did a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the biggest concept that people don't understand when they hear Gnosis or something like that. Well, if they believe in duality, God versus another one. No, not at all. We know in the realm of the tree, the top three, there we go. The top three, there is no duality. It's all oneness. But when we start coming down that tree, funny things start happening. And as you said, it's not an evil per sub, as we know
No.
within the Abrahamic religions. It is the ego. It is the battle within our own selves to make the right decisions and to make this, make this path a lot better than what it is. So in the concept of evil is a good thing at that point to bring the light out.
That's true. And remember, on the Kabbalistic tree, there's that middle pillar.
Yes.
And that middle pillar is where the Buddha is.
Right.
He called it the middle way or the path. And then this middle pillar is what I just read from you from Robert Adams. It's the way of self-realization, because when you see the Kabbalah as you setting in meditation,
right?
You're setting in meditation. The lower is down here in the lower chakras.
Right.
The higher you go up on that Kabbalistic tree to the Ein Sof is right here in the third eye and the crown chakra, if you speak in chakras. But the point being is that pure awareness is that top of that kether. That ether at the top of the Kabbalistic tree, that's that's pure consciousness.
Right.
Pure consciousness. And that's the real God. And that's what we are. We are pure consciousness having an experience. And brother, I just want to say, I feel like today in meditation, it became quite clear. There's only two states of consciousness. There's the conditioned consciousness, and then there is pure consciousness,
right?
Which is unconditioned.
Right.
Conditioned consciousness is full of theology, full of dogma, full of rituals. It ain't no different than people being full of television or full of cotton candy or going to the fair and worldly.
Right.
If you're worldly or religious, what's the difference?
Nothing.
You're still conditioning your mind. You're filling the cup with your own clutter, your own inventions.
Right.
Now, when you empty that cup, this is why I'm starting to really love the Tao of Zen and Buddhism, brother. When you empty that cup, then that cup gets full, just like Robert Adams said. It gets full of knowledge, gnosis, and truth.
Right. Well,
you don't need religion.
No. And that's the ego. That's the ego thriving to know, thriving to have its field. And like you said, we have to empty that to actually receive and to understand what is really going on. Because condition is so true. We spend our life conditioning through church, through political, whether you're Democrat, Republican, we are conditioned our whole life. This is good. This is bad. This is bad. This is the devil. And the fact of the matter is this is all an illusion. This is the matrix, even as the movie suggests it is. And we need to wake up. We need to wake up out of this thing to understand what is truly going on. And we need to.
See it like a game. I'm starting to look at it, Brother Michael, as more of a game. It's a game. Do you get it? It's like if you're playing a game, of course, I don't play games, but I can kind of remember when I was younger, I might have. And I remember, there was always an objective and you wanted to figure out, and one thing you do, if you can discover your true self in the game, then you've won, you know?
Right.
But remember, it's a game. The game can be ended at any time and nothing's going to be harmed. In other words, your spirit and your consciousness is eternal. It's not going to be hurt in the end.
Right.
But in the game, it's very fearful because in the game, you have this avatar called the physical body.
Right.
And it can be hurt.
Right.
And it can experience pain.
Right.
And so that's what makes it scary.
Right. And even death. The video you did on death a long time ago. Yeah. That is the ego is very fearful of that because that does end the game. It does. And then when you talk about the end or death, you start worried about, oh, did I read enough of this Bible? Did I study Zohar enough? Did I pray enough? Did I do this enough? And that is useless worry. It's useless. It's the ego. It's the ego.
That's right. Now, this is why I say you've got to meditate, because if you don't meditate, you'll never figure this out. But in meditation, I'll give the secret away. This is the ultimate secret and it's so secret because you can't really talk about it. It's nonverbal. It's just a state that it'll hit you during meditation. If you sit long enough or just practice every day, at some point in your meditation, something clicks. And then you rise up a little bit above the thought world. And you kind of go up like a helium balloon, just a tad bit above the mind and above the head, above the thoughts.
Right.
And when you rise up out of your thoughts or the thought plane, you enter into this pure, cool, It's like a cool, crisp. I can only describe it as in terms of things in the world, but it's not really. But the best I can do. It's a real cool, clean, translucent, pristine state.
Right.
And that's your true state. And let me tell you, it ain't bothered by nothing here.
No.
And that's where you're really at.
Right.
And so when you leave your body, you're going to leave and you're going to go back to that. So that's the good news.
Well, a video I had done a while back with Antonio with the Jesus of History, he played a video clip of Hugh Jackman, and Hugh Jackman meditates 5 times a day. He's very much he's very much into this. And he talked about his religious upbringing, which was Catholic. And, he loves the Catholics. He said it's beautiful. He said, but when he discovered true meditation, when he discovered what you just got through talking about, he says, when he gets to that place and he touches that upper realm and he feels, he did use water, that wonderful flowing water. He says, when you come out of that, you take that with you. He said it is the most ultimate experience, and he just could not imagine life today without his meditation, because to him that is the true path of enlightenment. He don't knock the Catholicism, he don't knock Catholic because his family's that, but he says that when you experience the real thing, when you really experience the true divine and the ultimate of creation, and really the divine within you, nothing else compares at all.
That is so true. That is so true. I talked a lot about the Christ teachings in my previous videos on my channel there. I talked a lot. If you notice, I talked about the Christ I am. Yeah. And the whole allegory of the baby in the manger and things like that. And I went through all this esoteric knowledge, turning water into wine, which is turning your lower self to your higher self, and transforming yourself from within. I still love to talk about that, by the way. Right. But a lot of my Christian friends hate that kind of stuff because it's not up to code to the precepts of the church. Right. It's like you're talking about the essence of the scriptures, Amor Russell, but you're not talking about what the Bible actually says. And I'm like, brother, I don't care what the Bible says. I only care what the Bible's pointing to. Right. You see what I'm saying? It's like they're so fascinated with the chrome on the handlebars of the bicycle that they forget they're riding the bicycle.
Well, and to back up what you're saying, I took the course with Billy Phillips at the Kabbalah Center a while back called the Redacting Jesus of History. Fabulous. Yeah. And actually that whole course points to what we're talking about now. And he talks about through the history of the church, and I'm horrible at names, and I cannot remember the 3 church fathers who said this. They all say this, and they say it with their own words. If you believe the literal written teachings of the Bible, and I'm just telling you what they said, you're basically dumb. They said that Jesus had an inner secret, a circle that explained all of this written stuff, as you said, is a distraction. There's truth hidden in there, which thank God we found it through our journey. So we know there's truth, but you have to dig for it. And he said that if you believe the literal written words of these scriptures, you're lost. There is something deeper, and you have to search for it. But once you find it, like you're talking about, then you don't do anything no more. You just live it. Yeah. Didn't they say the letter killeth? But yes, it does. The spirit gives life. Yes, it does. I mean, and the carnal mind is an enmity against God. And so if you're reading it literally, that's carnal. Right. That's carnal. And if you're reading it spiritually, then you're going to be looking for the essence. Right. You don't care what kind of flower it is. You only care what it smells like. Right. Is it real or is it plastic? Right. It's like you said last week, whatever's out there, you wanted to be initiated, Sufi, Hindu, Buddhist, whatever you can find of truth. You want all the truth you can get. And that's the way we should be. It should be like a big steam table full of food that we are actually trying to get everything we can to understand the essence of who we are. So really, people are really tying themselves off when they say, this is the only way, this is the only truth, I can't budge from this truth. They're really sealing the ceiling that they're creating within their own selves.
Yeah, and then it gets kind of back to they don't know. They
Right.
really don't. They don't know. I
Right.
mean, look, man, I was there, and you
Me
were
too.
there.
Me
You were
too.
there. Yeah, and it's like when the veil is there, and you really feel you're doing something, and it's just it's like you're blinded. It's the blind leading the blind.
Right. Right.
And it's the carnal mind. It's the religious Christian mind looking for salvation for the ego.
Right. Right.
It's ego salvation.
But even within their book, they missed the whole fact that Jesus himself, the Jesus of history, often moved himself away from the masses. He left the people to go meditate. That's exactly what he did. If this person, whatever, he went away from people and he got alone with the Creator. He actually meditated. He never stayed with the masses. He had a small group that he taught, which is traditional, but yet when it came to the masses, he really wasn't into the masses. He wanted to be out in the wilderness by himself. And I think this is something we really miss in some of these figures. Even Moses, what was he doing on the mountain by himself up there? What was he doing? Because I think there's a time we have to get away from all of this drama, all of this dogma, get away from all of this stuff and just get with ourselves and to figure this thing out.
Yeah, yeah. I always saw the scriptures. Anytime you see anyone going up on a mountaintop in the Bible,
Right.
That's going up to that what I just told you about meditation. When you go above the thought plane,
right?
The thought plane is where fundamentalism is. It's mentalism.
Yeah, it's good.
Fundamentalism, and it ain't that fun because but it's fundamental. It's called fundamentalism. But the truth is, the spiritual realm is above the thought plane.
Right.
So think about it. Think about it in terms of layers, because you have, for example, the physical plane, where everything is separate and solid. You know, you can knock it, and then of course, and you can put your hand on stuff here. That's the physical plane.
Right.
Everybody knows about that. I mean, everybody's chasing after objects all day long in the physical world.
All day.
Lost. And then of course there's the mental plane.
Right.
Now, these are mental objects. And just like a barking dog, they're chasing them thoughts all day long.
Right.
So it ain't much different than physical objects.
Right.
You got physical objects and mental objects, and everybody's chasing them.
Right.
They're lost. Now, above the mental plane is the spiritual plane. And this is where the I am presence is. This is where the Christ is. This is where your Buddha nature exists. And this is where your enlightenment and your freedom will come from. Now, the Great Reset's going to happen, and in the physical plane, you shouldn't worry about it, because in the physical, what does it matter if anything changes in the physical? It's just the physical. If the physical is impermanent anyway, as Buddha discovered. Everything here ultimately fades, destroys, changes, and dies, and moves and transforms into something new. Right. So everything's always constantly changing on the physical plane, Right. This room I'm sitting in won't be here in probably 100 years, Right. But in the mental thoughts, don't worry about that either. Don't let them put mental poison in your mind through the television, through the newspapers, through the media, through the gossip, through the things you hear at work. Just let that go. Just let it go by your mind. Keep your vision fixed on the spiritual plane, not the mental and not the physical, but the spiritual. And when you keep your vision fixed on the spiritual plane, you won't have any fear, and you'll live in a world of miracles, and you'll experience miracles in your daily life. So when this Great Reset comes about, you'll be a living expression of the miracle.
Right. That's awesome. I like the point that you brought up about the whispers of fear, like a dog chasing, barking all the time.
Yeah.
Because I have one of those dogs here. He thinks he hears something outside all the time. He's continually barking. But that's true. That's a beautiful illustration. The press is continually saying, you're going to die of COVID.
Yeah.
You're not going to have no money. We're going to raise the food costs. Well, yeah, they're going to do that anyway. That's whoever's in. But the fact of the matter is you can't let that, because as even Jesus said in the Bible, take no thought of these things. Because, if the Heavenly Father can feed the birds, I don't see the birds out there chasing, worried about thoughts of fear of not having a tree to sit in or something like that. So, I mean, we have to be in the same realm of this situation, is that we're above all this drama and all of this controversy to survive it, I believe.
That's true. And it's all just hypnotism.
Right.
You know, and then it gets back to religion too, because I believe, brother, that all our history has been tampered with.
Oh, yeah.
And that the psychological operations or the psyops that you see in the news today isn't anything new.
Right.
It's been here since, and I'm telling you, I believe a lot of the Bible to be part of that. Right. You know, there's some things in the Bible that just don't add up, you know. No. Yeah. And you know, there's one, I believe, where it says, obey those that have the rule over you and all
yes,
that.
Paul.
Do you really think an enlightened mind is going to tell you that?
No. No.
Is that what Jesus did? Or
no.
They put his ass on the cross.
Yeah.
So,
they threw James off the temple.
He didn't listen to none of them.
No.
So I follow Jesus, you know, Jesus and Buddha. Whether they're real characters or mythological symbols, doesn't matter. Allegorically, they represent my true self, and that's what I'm following.
There you go.
You know, but a lot of the Bible don't add up, especially the King James translation.
Right. Well, it's written with an agenda, and not to get us off topic, you know, King James had his own problems anyway. And then he had his priests and stuff translated, and they were all basically the same orientation, basically, but yet the Christian church would hold on to the scripture as the ultimate. But you're right. There's just, when a God one day says to go in and destroy everybody, all the animals and livestock, get rid of them, annihilate them, and then the next one he's sitting there saying, love everybody, you're kind of like, I don't understand this.
Yeah. And King James was a king.
Yeah, I know.
He was part of the bloodline. He was part of these families that's been doing this to mankind since. Why should you entrust anything that come from a king?
I wouldn't.
So that's why. And I remember when I was growing up in Pentecostal church, it was King James or nothing, you know.
1611 edition. King James, or it's not the word of God.
And we had fun with it, boy. But now looking back at it, now why would we trust King James ever? Or any king, for that matter, or ruler of this world. These are the people that put Christ to death.
Right. Right.
And then they're going to write a Bible.
Right.
And not to mention, brother, what they do before the Gutenberg press. These Christians did not have a New Testament running around. They didn't have none of this book.
No.
There may have been some scrolls somewhere. I mean, but even that speculation, who knows? Most of that could have been written recently. We don't know. We don't know what this is why I love Marty Leeds. Marty Leeds does not believe anything that has to do with historical.
Well, he's right.
Yeah. And it's true, though. You cannot trust history. And I do believe that right now we see a depopulation agenda that probably has to do with a great reset. They're going to erase the history. In other words, it only takes one generation. You wipe out most of the people. If, for example, this happened, you know, God forbid, but if it happens, it would be easy to rewrite history because all you got to do is erase the previous generation and it's done.
Right.
So I think that's what's happened in our past. I don't believe our history either anymore.
Well, this is not a negative, and I'm sure I'll get some bad comments on this, but when you were in school, we're around the same age. When you were in school, besides the Jewish history, and I'm not bashing anything. I am a Jew, so I'm not bashing it. But did you learn anything about Egyptian history, or did you learn anything about Sumerian history? Maybe very little bit. Maybe. Very little.
Yeah.
The only thing you grew up learning was what happened to the Moses and the Jews. And then, you know, so what I'm trying to say is this generation that we're living, the only history they know is what we've been taught. Like you said, you're talking about every if you did, me and my family went to the Georgia Guidestones here last year. Yeah. And they do, it's 10 commandments for a new world order in every language, every major language. And there is got to be a major decrease of population.
Yeah.
And there's only one reason, because they want to they want to reset. They want to restart this thing again. And only the elite will survive and the rest won't. So it's coming.
Yeah. They want to erase history too. I've already seen the evidence of that. They want to erase history, and the thing is, they can do it,
right?
Because of the sheep,
right?
The sheeple, the people that follow and that go along, they're going to walk us all over the cliff.
Right.
And they're going to take every one of us with them.
Right.
You know, but that's okay, because then again, we get back to the spiritual teaching. Who cares? It's
exactly.
Like, you know, you can destroy my body,
Right.
you know, you can, and, you know, but you can't take my spirit, you know,
Right.
you can't harm me. And the resurrection of Christ is a perfect demonstration that proves that no one in their spirit, at least I think this is what the resurrection allegory or reality or whatever is showing you, is that you can't destroy the spirit.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it. And truth is, who knows? There could be a miraculous opening in the heavens that we all experience something brand new that's not anything anybody expected.
Right. Right.
That's what I'm praying for. Right. But yeah, we are living in that time, brother, called the apocalypse.
Right.
And I'm not just talking about the Bible, because the apocalypse has been in ancient Hindu tradition. It's in the ancient teachings of the mystery schools, that we would enter into the age where everything would shift and change, and that the old world would be destroyed and a new era would be ushered in. And I think what's happening, brother, is that the elites of this world are just trying to steer that.
Oh, yeah.
To their advantage. They know it's happening anyway. It's going to happen because it's time.
Right.
Astrologically, we have hit that omega point, and now it's time. And so they want to steer it.
Right.
But, you know, they could be in for a big surprise.
Yeah, it could actually end up way worse for them if enough of people get enlightenment and realize who you are. Yeah, you're not pushing us around no more. One thing about Hindus and Buddhists, you know, they got a very peaceful rep, but you push them to a point, they some bad MF. You know what I'm saying? They will fight, and they will defend what they're on. I mean, they're very peaceful people, yes, but the fact of the matter is if we really realize who we are, people aren't going to mess with us.
Well, that's the way it's about the balance. There's a time for everything under the sun. You know, it's like the scripture says, and on the Kabbalistic tree, you see that there's a time to fight.
Right.
And there's a time not to.
Right.
You know, and there's a time to lie.
Right.
I used to think, oh, to always tell the truth. I always tell the truth. And I got to thinking, I said, if somebody came here and says, I'm going to kill Amor Russell, where is he? I told my wife, I said, you better lie to him. He ain't here, you know.
He's gone. He's like Elvis. He has left the building. He's gone.
So see, there's a time for everything, you know. And yeah, there'll be a time if you have to stand, you stand.
Well, that's it. And when you come to that realization of who you are, you realize these egos of government and stuff like that, they don't even bother you at that point, because you really are sitting up here, and they really, wait a minute, you really are sitting up here, and they really are sitting down here at this point when you realize who you are. So this is a very timely discussion that we're having right now, because I believe we've seen in 100 days things flip-flop so much. And I ain't just talking about because Trump's in there. I don't care who's there. They're not your friend. They're not your friend. So,
if it's on mainstream television, or you see it in front of the newspaper, it's a lie.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right.
The great to see. Yeah. And you know, it's just, that's the way it is.
Right. Well, they actually claim that Obama started it, and that Clinton was actually supposed to win this thing and finish it out, bring it to, but we see something happened. The American people basically, whatever happened. And now all of a sudden they're finishing it now with the administration we have in there now. But it doesn't matter, because it's eventually, like you said, it's going to happen anyway. It doesn't matter.
They're all actors. They're all just acting. And you see, I knew this was going to happen a long time ago, even back when I was a Christian, you know, and when I first heard about the United Nations, you know, as a child, you know, you hear about the United Nations, you know, and the Council on Foreign Relations. And I even subscribed to the Council on Foreign Relations newsletter. I just wanted to know what was on their mind, you know.
Right.
Because I knew that the UN was set up by the Rockefeller Foundation. And, you know, I mean, this is nothing bad to say. I mean, I'm just saying the United Nations came from that. It was funded by the Rockefellers. And that's, you know, that's the way everybody thinks that's a good thing.
Right.
But for me, I knew that there was that the goal was a one world government, which means they've got to destroy all other nation states and governments around the world. So they're going to collapse everything. but I didn't know when. It was
Right.
like, when is it? But I knew it'd come from the UN.
Right.
I knew it'd come from the UN and the EU, the European Union. Between those two, you know, and I was looking at the Bible, you know, the book of Revelation and Daniel's prophecies concerning the Nebuchadnezzar's dream with the great. So at that time, I felt it was a fulfillment of Bible prophecy, which it still probably is.
Right.
However, here's the thing. There is karmic law. There's karmic law. So right now, these people ain't no different from us. They're not, they're just people.
Right.
And now they've come out of the shadows. They're pulling the Great Reset on us. And now they are going to be held responsible karmically for anything that happens to us who don't want it.
Right.
You know? And it's not that we don't want a better world. I don't want to go back the way it was. I really don't. I love the idea of a great reset, to be honest with you. But I don't love it. I don't love it being steered in a situation where we're doing harm to people.
Right.
To do harm to others is just not my thing.
Right.
Know? And so, no, I'm not into their great reset. There has to be, and I do believe there's going to be another great reset. It's going to be God's.
Right.
I think the Holy Spirit, the living presence, the Holy Shekinah is going to take over this thing. Now, here's my beliefs. And this is what the Hindus teach as well. The great yuga that's coming in will be directed and will be guided and will be divine. We're birthing a new civilization or a new consciousness here today. We're birthing it right now. So
would you imagine a civilization without the ego of tribalism, that you don't have this set, this here? We're all one, and we realize that we're all one, and we treat each other like we treat ourselves, because we all realize that we're divine. We ain't going to be hurting nobody else. We're not going to be stealing from somebody else. We're not going to be doing these things. And if we could get rid of these tribal barriers and these tribal understandings, what a much better world it would be.
Well, that's why I say I kind of agree with the whole Great Reset to some extent.
Right.
Because we do have to transcend our religious differences.
Right.
We have to transcend our old way of harming and destroying each other and, you know, consuming and all that, consumerism and all that stuff.
Right.
The old world does have to die. It has to go. It has to go. I'm all for that. I'm all for that because I'm all about new beginnings, rebirth. So perhaps what's happening today appears to be evil because it's led by some pretty corrupt
individuals,
organizations and individuals.
Yeah.
However, God may use this to bring about a new resurrection life for us. And so let's look at it that way.
Let's look at it that way, because after our first show we did a couple of weeks ago, I had somebody tell me, because, you know, we were talking about the Great Reset then, and they made a comment, well, you know, don't talk about it so negatively because it actually could be a good thing. I said, I think we actually said that in the video. You actually said that, that you're hoping that it would be something else. So we're not saying that it has to be the bad evil. We believe we can make it whatever we want to make it to be. And that's really where it's at. You know, if we're divinity, the power of creation is within us. We have the possibility to set a new tone or aroma through the world or something like that. So I'm with you. Let's declare that one.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, either way you look at it, you probably don't have nobody lives past 80 anymore, you know.
No.
If you're up in age, you probably ain't got that much longer anyway. So who cares if they reset it or don't reset it, or if it goes into this direction, if it don't go the way you expected, let it go. And this is what the Buddhist teachings are teaching me, that you can enter into that state where it just allow it to change.
Right.
Let it change. Let it change.
Right.
It doesn't have to be the way you want it to be.
Right.
It can be any way.
Right.
And you just allow it. And by letting it change, you see there's another alternative at work, which is God.
Right. Well, Buddhism and Hinduism and most major religions have survived all of these resets we've had before within the locals of, you know, what happened in communism, what's happened in other things. I think actually they make us better people sometimes when we have less choices. I'm not advocating any of that. I'm just saying that we will survive whatever comes. And like you said, if we don't, we're not going to be here anyway. It doesn't matter.
So that's the truth of it. You know,
Right.
Nobody wants to look at that. Nobody thinks they're dying.
No.
It's like everybody's running around in the roads, looking through windows, wanting to go party and go do this, do that. They never think for a minute that it could end.
Right.
But I promise you it will.
Right. It's going to. It's got to.
So make preparation for that now. And so this is what I say. Enter into the path of self-realization. Now, if you go down the road of religion, you'll go on for a long time, and you'll come back to what Amor Russell's telling you now.
Right.
Years from now, if there is years from now, you'll come to the realization, I'm back where Amor was talking about.
Right.
Because all that knowledge and all the concepts and all the things you learn from those books is going to run out of juice.
Yeah.
They're going to run out of power because they didn't have any power. They point to the power. The religious books, the Bible has some beautiful pointers.
Right.
And then, of course, it's got a lot of other stuff in there too.
Right.
but and then, of course, every religion is pointing to the same thing.
Right.
And then once you figure out what that is, then you don't need the religions anymore. None of them.
Well, you brought up a good point earlier. You said that, the early Christians did not have the scriptures as we have them today. We know that most of the Jews did not have the Torah scrolls. Most places didn't even know what a Torah scroll looked like unless a rabbi came through once in a while. Basically, they're doing what you and I are doing now. They're taking what enlightenment that they have of whatever subject, and they're bringing it to talking about it and practicing that situation. And we may come to a point again where all of this internet's gone. We may come to a point again where all the books have been burnt or whatever. What are you going to do? What are you going to do at that point? Well, how are you going to survive? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what Amar's talking about. We're going to do a little meditation. I'm going to taste a little bit of that upper spirituality, and I'm going on. It doesn't matter. That's
right. See, because when your mind is clear, we do a lot of talking on here, but at the end of the day, Amor Russell is going to go clear his mind.
You got to.
And I recommend you do that too. When your mind is clear, the heart opens naturally.
Right.
Spontaneous. And when the heart opens, then you're like a baby. You're like a little child, becoming as little children,
Right.
And then you trust. So what does little children do? They trust.
They trust.
But you ever wonder why Jesus said become as little children? That's it right there. Because a little child is not always think he knows what's going on. A little child's like, what is that? Like you always ask the spirit, what am I looking at here?
Right.
In other words, you don't let the TV tell you what you see, what the world. Don't let the television tell you what the world is.
Right.
Ask your heavenly Father.
Right.
Ask God, or ask your heavenly Mother. However you perceive God.
Right.
Ask God what the world is, and God will show you what the world is.
Fantastic. This has been a fantastic conversation. Anything you want to close on that you want to bring out to the people before we leave? Because this has been a fantastic conversation.
I just want to kind of go over the idea of two states of consciousness. There's only two states of consciousness, and if you're done with religion and you're sick of just religious rote books, in other words, if you go to a Christian church, you got to be a Christian.
Right.
You can't be a Buddhist in a Christian church. They'll run you out of there. And if you go to a Buddhist temple and start talking about Jesus, they'll run you out of there too. I done found that out. It's true. and the Hindus, they pretty much don't care what you believe.
Right.
Most of them.
No.
Unless you go to the Hare Krishna temple, you better be a Hare Krishna or you'll get run out of there. But because I know that true too. But I'm telling you, if you're done with it and you don't want to be anything in particular, you just want to be awake, then go inside to that true self of you and clear your mind. Clear your mind. Let go. Listen to the crickets and the birds. Go to your she shed. The girls have the she shed now.
It's on fire.
Yeah. Or go to your man cave, wherever you do, and sit in there where you feel the presence of nature and of God, and then you just let everything else go.
Right.
It's like you're dying.
Right.
And if you're dying, then everything, all your theology is dying too.
You ain't gonna remember it anyway. It's
You ain't
gone.
gonna remember. No, at the point of when you cross over, I'm sure when I cross over, brother, I'll be staring at the sun, and the last thing I'm gonna be thinking about is whether or not Jesus was married to Mary Magdalene and moved to the British Isles, and or how many wives he had, or no. That'll be the last thing on my mind at my point of death. I'm practicing death now. It's like I'm done with it. It's like that's it. And so when you clear your mind, then you don't need to know anything. You just need to be present in this moment. And when you're present in this moment, you're like a little child, and you trust each moment.
Well, the thing is, like you said, I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, I thought you were going to say that you're looking at the sun and you're wondering if it's going to explode in 5 million years. It's not going to matter. You're gone.
That's right.
You're gone. And that's really the way we should look at our lives. Jesus himself said, basically, live as though you're dying. Live as though you're a dead man. And
you are.
You are dead. I mean, there's nothing you can do in this life. But something I also suggest people do is go on Google. Everybody's got Google or search engine, and compare the writings or words of Jesus to Buddha. Compare them. And I'm telling you something, you're going to see they're saying the same thing. And I'm telling you, God has sent, whatever you say, has sent many people to bring us back to that realization. Amar right here, same way. He's bringing us back to the Buddhist the teachings. And again, we're not talking about a religion. We're not trying to be Japanese or whatever they are. I'm trying to be a redneck here in the South to get to the most of the Creator as I can. And Mars the same way. That's all we're trying to do. So we're not trying to convert anybody to any religion. Matter of fact, both of us are tired of religion. We're sick of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's played out, it's like I said, it's, I did make a lot of Christian mystic videos. And in a way, I did it for my Christian friends because I made a lot of esoteric Christian videos because I wanted them to see that there is a clean path of Christhood, and that the Christian faith, at least in its esoteric sense, is pointing to the same truths as Buddha, the same truths as Krishna, which is the truth of your real self. And so, but now I'm thinking, okay, now I'm personally ready to get simple. So I'm kind of done reiterating the whole Christian theology over and over. I did that already. Then go watch my old videos. But I enjoyed it. It was fun, and it's true. There is a spiritual essence in that spiritual rebirth, the Christ in you being born. That's a beautiful experience. But why call it Christ? Why not just call it your real self?
Right, exactly.
Which is what it really is. So I'm ready to get simple, brother. I'm ready to clean the slate.
Well, that reminds me of a story of growing up. My favorite band was Kiss, of course, and my mother was always that means Knights in Satan's service. And one time we were watching a video interview with one of them, and they said, the name, there's been a lot of controversy. And he said, look, here's where the name comes from. My mama told me when I was young, keep it simple, stupid. Kiss. But everybody makes it something else. And that's the way we are with religion now. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it basic. We don't have to get into deep stuff. We can just keep it on the conscious level of just being. I'm too old, Amar. I'm too old. I'm tired of. I really am burnt out on a lot of study. I'm really burnt out on studying feast and what you can eat and biblical situations. I'm sick of all of that. I'm ready to sit back in the rest of my journey, however long that may be. I want to just live. I just want to live in that consciousness, live in that reflection of who the Creator is. Maybe for the younger folks, keep on fighting, whatever you want to do. But I'm to the point now where I just want to sit back and enjoy the presence and to understand it from His understanding, not mine no more. Let the ego go. Let Him pour it into me now what I need to know now.
Yeah, it's a waste of time. If you're still talking about Mary Magdalene and the whole Jesus and Glastonbury and all that stuff, hey, look, it's great entertainment. It'd probably make a good movie too.
Yeah.
But it's a waste of my time when it comes to spiritual realization.
Right.
When it comes to spirituality, I don't have any more time to waste. And I think a lot of people that are in their older years have come to that, to where, hey, I don't have a lot of time left,
No.
So why do I want to fill myself full of cartoon movies about historical figures when I can actually experience the peace of God here now?
And I think of the Matrix one more time before we go. And Neo had to come to a point to where he lost everything. He in the world, he was chased by the police and everything like that. But yet in the other side, he was ready to give up. He didn't feel like he could do the mission that he was given. And he had to come to a point of total surrender, of death. And when he came to that point, that's when he started realizing who he was. And that same potential is within us. I don't know about the bullets. I don't know about all that. Wow. But I am talking about the spiritual side of this thing. We can actually achieve things that are so much greater, but we've got to let it go and let him do it, or it do it, or whatever your concept of God is. We've got to surrender to that upper consciousness and let that guide us from here. And that's the point I'm at now. I'm tired of the fights, the debates. You're not going to change nobody with debates. You're not going to change anybody. We saw that with Marty Leeds on the Orthodox priests and stuff like that. Neither one of them were going to really bend. I mean, they brought out good points, but really overall at the end of the thing, the Orthodox priest went his way and Marty went his way. And yeah, we learned a little bit, but at the end of the day, nothing changed.
Yeah. I'm into changing.
Yeah, I'm in too.
Transformation. If it's not transforming my consciousness, then it's a waste of time.
Right.
One thing about it, if you let go of the seaweeds, you'll float to the top.
Yes.
And when you get to the top there, you'll be at peace.
Right.
So, but you got to let go, and that's it.
And the thing is we got to stop letting the division happening. It's not about Muslim. Yes.
That's the problem. I mean, it'd be okay if it was like fun and it was good entertainment. We had a great debate. It was wonderful. We laughed. That's all right. But if you walk away from a debate or a conversation or a YouTube comment or something, and it's just division,
right?
Then that's the problem. That's the whole problem right there.
Right.
That's what we want to get away from, and unfortunately, that means you got to get away from from the whole dogma thing.
Well, as you said with the Abrahamic tribes, you got the Jews say they're God's chosen people. Then you got Christians come along and said that since Jesus, they are the chosen people. And then Islam later, they have the real true revelation. They're the chosen people. And the only thing you do is you have three tribes fighting now. I don't give a damn who you are. I don't care who, we've got to love each other and we've got to come to some kind of understanding, because really, Amar, and I said we were going to end, and we're going to end.
Oh, it's fine.
Really, okay, good. Really, in turn, we're destroying ourselves. It's not so much even the people over us. Our ego is destroying our brothers and sisters. It's really, we're being led a bunch of bull crap, but yet we're falling to the traps too and falling to this division. We got to stop it.
That's right. Whatever you feed will grow.
Right.
And if you're feeding division wonderful. If you can take the Bible like Marty Leeds does,
right?
If you can take the scriptures and point to esoteric truths and teach those beautiful truths, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Or if you can take the Torah or the Kabbalah and use the Zohar and show beautiful truths, that's all inclusive, and that includes everyone, not just the Jews,
right?
Because there's a lot of racism in that too,
right?
And it's a lot of the Jewish people are racist against the rest of the world.
Right.
A lot of the Christians are still kind of racist against the non-Christians, and
right.
All that division has to stop.
It's got to.
And the only way I feel like the only way for me it's going to stop is to get simple and get zen and just get clean. Just clean. Take the garbage out.
Right. Well,
my head,
one of my friends is on here. He's on the chat right now, Light in the Darkness, and he's been on the same kind of journey you and I have been on too. And he's the same way, like we've been. That you start frigging yourself up, and it's just like this grabs you right back again. It's like your ego saying, no, don't leave this, or this is the truth. If you leave this, you're going to be doomed, or whatever like that. So it just kind of reminds that there's many people trying to break away or let go of the seaweed, as you say, but there's such a pull of tradition and fear that people seem to go back every time. I know I have many times gone back and grabbed.
You know, you ever met anybody that can't leave their hometown? It's like,
yes.
I mean, I've been all over the world, and I go back and my old friend, he's still sitting in the same house. He ain't even left. You know, it's like years ago, I left him sitting in that chair. You know, he's still sitting at the same table drinking beer, you know. And I'm like, you just can't leave, can you?
Right.
You know, oh, man. And then, of course, I see it all the time. We don't want to leave our familiar place.
Right.
And even me, I get familiar, and I don't want to leave my comfort zone. So.
Right.
And so religion's no different. You get comfortable. If you get comfortable with your theology, you get stuck. You don't want to leave it. And then you don't want to evolve.
No.
And you can't go any further.
Right. And as you said, me and you have never discouraged anyone. If you want to stay in that box and be the best Christian, best Jew, best Muslim, you do it. Go for it. We're not saying anything, but we're just saying your ceiling is going to be very limited if you don't look outside of the dogma and start receiving from above. You're very limited, and you'll never get out of that box. And maybe you don't want out of the box. I don't know your life, but I want out of the freaking boxes. I want out of the journey of this part. I want to just experience the Creator, receive that wisdom that I can share with my family, my 11-year-old and stuff like that. I passed enough dogma along. I need to give truth to them now. And I think that's where we need to be, is to the point. And Amar, you talked last week about different ages that we get into. When we're young, we're restless, we can defeat the world. But now, as we turn to the age that I am in now, I need to be more like that old wise owl and sit up there and just receive and pass out knowledge as I feel credited. I'm not fighting no more. I can't do it no more.
No.
Too much.
No, that is so true. That is so true. Now, I want to close with this, if you don't mind.
Do it.
And just to say, you can be a Christian mystic or a Jewish mystic, and you can be a Sufi mystic and see the truth of all things. But if you're still binding yourself with theology, then you're just perpetuating the division and the fear and all that. So there is a difference between mysticism and religious fundamentalism.
Right.
You know. But now for me, even the mysticism part of it, I'm just personally ready to get clean. I don't even want to be called a Christian mystic anymore. Actually, I'm re-editing on the back of my book. It says Amors Russell, Christian mystic.
Yes, I got them. Yeah.
I'm deleting all that now. I'm going back and redoing it. I'm like, I don't want people to think I'm anything. You know?
No title.
Today, I'm nothing. Nobody.
Right.
What does nobody believe? You know.
Right.
And when you become nobody, as Christ said, when you lose yourself for my sake, you find it.
Right.
What self is he talking about? Now, what self is Jesus talking about? Lose yourself for my sake. He that finds himself shall lose it. He that loses himself shall find me. You know?
Right.
Well, that's getting rid of no self.
Right.
Getting to that point where there's no individual me, a conceptual ego me. And the ego is not an entity; it's an activity. It's a false self.
Right.
So when you lose that false self, you find the Christ. You see.
Right.
There is no self in Christ.
Right.
So you get to that point where there is no self, and this is what we want to do. And Robert says this: therefore, when you can forget your scriptures, forget about everything you have learned, and become totally empty, then you will become full of the radiance, full of enlightenment. That's how it happens. Self-realization is not a religion. It's not.
That is awesome.
Self-realization is not a religion, and there is no theology or dogma or books. There's books that point to it, but there's no theology about. There's no gods, and there's no gods or goddesses. There's just this realization of self. And when you realize yourself, you'll realize God, because they're one and the same.
Right. Man, I'm mesmerized by that, because I think about from the time we're birthed, we are dogma. We are we are pushed into this. You know, you're automatically took to church, confirmed, you're starting in Sunday school, or you're Jewish, whatever. So we are being programmed from the very day that we're born. And what he's saying is we got to come to a point where we let it all go. And then once we let it all go, let the dogma, the scriptures and everything go. Then when we're empty, as Jesus said also, we will then receive. But it's only till we get to that point that we can receive.
You have to become nobody.
Right.
And when you become nobody, then you act in the world totally free. You're free.
Right.
Because what does nobody you don't defend anything because you're nobody. You don't have anything to defend.
Right.
You see?
Yes.
If you're nobody, then what does nobody believe?
Right.
What does nobody do? You don't have to do anything.
Right.
You're already free. And that's the whole teaching of self-realization, is that your true self is always already free and your false self never existed.
No.
It's fake.
And I know I'm prologuing this because I'm getting more thoughts, but it's just like Jesus taught. He told the Pharisees, you're nothing but snakes and vipers. Your teachings are. He continually hammered the fact that everything that religion is teaching you is dead and dangerous, that you had to die to self. And basically, he offended those. People don't think about Jesus offending, but when you read his words, he truly offended people around him. And basically said, if you're not living as a dead man, you'll never get this situation. You'll never understand it.
Oh, and that again is the whole problem. If you think there's a self, then everything you do is going to be to either entertain that self,
right,
to defend that self,
right,
to feed that self, to educate that self. But when you realize there is no self,
right,
then you know there's nothing to do, there's nothing to become. You're always already free.
That is so powerful.
Yeah.
Well, I could go on for another 3 hours, but Amar, I'm not going to do that to you. But he's absolutely right. And I knew this was going to be a very good show. I felt it building up as we were talking during the week because we changed the subject a couple of times. And I really felt that when I watched his video he did on evil, and then I watched another video before I came on, that this was going to be a major topic because, as we said, the big reset's coming. Let's hope for the best. But if not, stay out of it. Stop chasing like the barking dog, just footsteps outside of your house, because it's not going to do nothing for you but drive you crazy.
Oh, and one more thing. Have you ever seen this movie, Little Buddha?
Yes.
Now, at the end of it, which is it's in the Buddhist scriptures, how Buddha sat under that Bodhi tree.
Right.
And when he did, all the hordes of hell came toward him.
Right.
Now, say this happens for you during the Great Reset, and the apocalypse happens, the earth goes through changes, or whatever happens, the sky falls from the heavens,
Right.
And you're in that meditative posture in your bedroom. What do you care?
You don't.
You're now facing the hordes of hell like Buddha, and the only thing that could happen in that instant is that you will fully awaken.
Right.
And then that will be your nirvana.
Yes.
So let's look at it that way.
Let's look at it that way. I think that. Hey, and Amar, when this is posted, can you put a link to that book, the one that you're reading from? Can you put that in the comments so people can get that book?
I most certainly can, and I want to show a picture of it there too, in case it'll be the best, probably the only book you'll ever buy again, because you won't need another one after this.
Right. Yeah, if you would post a link to that, that would be fantastic.
You won't learn anything.
That's good, though.
He'll take it all away from you.
That's where we need to be. That's where we need to be. Well, Amar, I appreciate this. We've been on for an hour and 8 minutes.
Right,
it's been fantastic. It's gone by so fast. And until next week, we hope you have a fantastic week. Please think about what we're saying. And any questions, Amar on his channel will be glad to, answer anything, or message me and I'll get you in touch with his email. So please, this is a start of a movement, I believe. I don't just see it between us two. I see it everywhere on Facebook and on YouTube, where people are like saying, we've got to stop this insanity and we got to step out. So till next time, Amar, I thank you for everything. And shalom. Have a great week.
Shalom.
Yes.
All right. Peace.